Hey everybody, Reed Price here. I play the role of Rob Shandon on Sullivan's Crossing, and you're listening to Corman Productions' Deep Dive TV Podcast with Dave and Stacie.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from the Corman Productions Deep Dive TV Podcast. My co-host Stacie here to talk about Sullivan's Crossing, Season 3, Episode 2, titled The Tie That Binds.
It's Episode 3, actually.
Yep, that's an error in my notes already. We're off to a great start here. The episode's description reads as follows. Maggie goes with Cal to see his parents as Sully and Frank investigate who's behind the new development. The episode was written by John Coughlin. This is his sixth writing effort on the series, and the episode is directed by Chris Grismer, who, of course, I am very familiar with. We both are, because he was, of course, my favorite director on the Quantum Leap revival. And this is actually his third time directing on this series. His fourth will be the very next episode, because once again, we're directing and writing in blocks.
Right.
And this is the new block. Before going further, I'll tell you a couple things. One, this is not a free podcast, so if you haven't watched the episode, I recommend go check it out. And then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening with the platforms of this podcast, now with one, please follow. And feel free to check out our YouTube channel, Core Productions, where additional content can be discovered. If you're already on our YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to our channel. Alright, so some sad announcements. Neither one of them which kind of really fit with this podcast. Both of them are genre-related. But the only thing that we're doing that's genre-related this week is something that's not going to drop for like 2 weeks. So now's as good a time as any to bring it up. But author Peter David, who was the author of comics and books, he also had 19 writing credits, including a couple episodes of Babylon 5. Peter David was actually a favorite author of mine at one point. He wrote several Star Trek books back in the day, including Amzadi, which is a pretty fan favorite book, as well as Q Squared, which when that book came out, I was dying to read that book. I really had to get my hands on it. And so sad announcement there. And apparently, he's known by Christy Flippus of the Quantum Leap podcast, which I guess is not that surprising, but
Chris and Albie were talking about him and his death on their latest episode of Trek Exploration.
Yeah, and I guess Chris got a chance to meet him a couple of times. I would have loved to have met him, but moving on from that, the other sad announcement is for Ed Gale. He died at the age of 61. He was the person in the body for Howard the Duck in Howard the Duck, the movie that got lambasted back in the day. He was also Chucky, the voice, the body of Chucky?
The body, yeah.
Yeah. So, sad announcement there. Moving on from that, we have some good shout-outs. And actually, quite a few.
All right, what do we got?
Compared to what we normally have for the Sullivan's Crossing stuff. This is a lot more comments than I'm used to seeing.
So keep them coming.
Yes, absolutely. Skylar Anderson, the original Skylar Anderson, the one who was always commenting from the beginning, he says, I do think that whenever a new boss comes in, there's sometimes a discomfort, especially if the previous boss was known for letting certain things slide. I could see the new boss almost being extra tough right away so that everyone can get on the same page. And then over time, he might soften and be a bit nicer to Rafe. He's 100% being overly tough, but he might feel like he has to in order to make Rafe see that the previous behavior or the way things used to run might have not been okay. And that's a pretty good take. And by the way, so I'm ready to eat crow and say that I was perhaps a little bit on the wrong side of this issue. Because I rewatched that search and rescue scene and did actually see what you were talking about. I think the first time I watched it, or even the second time, I was pretty much checked out from those scenes because, you know, like you were saying last week, those are not my favorite scenes. So I was just kind of like watching with eyes glazed and not really paying too much attention to them.
Yeah.
They're just too action-oriented for my taste. And it goes against the grain for what this series actually is. So I just kind of like tune it out, so to speak. But yeah, I finally sort of see what you were talking about when I rewatched that scene.
Okay.
We got a shout out for Better Roll Summit. That's my best guess there. This is her or his or their first time commenting. They say, love your podcast. It makes watching the show even more fun. So thank you for that. Emma Lindsay. I'm pretty confident this is a girl. Loving the Sullivan's Crossing deep dives. In Australia, our episodes are 45 minutes long, so I'm wondering if we are getting an even longer cut than the scenes we see in Canada. Such a shame that the CW is cutting scenes, as those side stories create the nuance and give depth to characters. Completely agree.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of interesting if she were getting a longer cut than where the show actually originates
Yeah,
from.
I'm not sure I can see how that happens. But you never know.
Right. Sharon Greenman, welcome back. Series is off to a great start, in my humble opinion. Just wish they didn't cut 2 minutes for ads. I record and fast forward when I watch again multiple times. But those cuts can be important, like the Sully and Cal conversation that you were talking about last week. Keep up the good work. I get a lot from watching your podcast. And of course, Sharon Greenman commented on a few podcasts last season. I actually found her on Facebook, and since I'm no longer on Facebook, I wasn't totally sure that I was going to see Sharon Greenman again, but here she is. So
yeah, and I saw her commenting on our Facebook post as well. So,
which of course I did not get to see, but you did tell me about it, so there's that.
Yeah, so thanks for being around, Sharon.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
have one more shout out. Our friend of the channel, Faith Shabs, who is Nurse Faith, background actress on this series. She said she loves our podcast. She said, I like the new romance that appears to be happening for Sully.
All right.
So definitely
yes.
get some of that in this episode.
Absolutely. All right, so before diving in and talking about your thoughts about this episode, I did want to talk about the Nova Scotia Screen Actors...
Screen Nova Scotia
Actors Awards.
Screen Nova Scotia Awards.
Right, Screen Nova Scotia Awards. All right, so we had planned to talk about Good Grief, the series which stars many of the Nova Scotian talent that we are familiar with. Those plans ended up getting scrapped when we kind of realized we had to pay for the Out TV service. We were not prepared to add another service. Initially, when we were looking at this, it was free. But I did jot up some notes, and I noticed some things that are relevant to this series in particular, which is why I'm talking about it now. And of course, the Screen Nova Scotia Awards. First of all, right off the bat, in the first episode, we see Renee Clark. It was, of course, the nurse that I think that ratted out Maggie in the finale.
Okay.
And I think we saw her a couple other times. Besides that, she's only credited in one episode, but I'm pretty sure she was in it more. I think we saw her at least one other time. Perhaps even in the premiere. Do you even know who I'm talking about?
I do know who you're talking about. I feel like she may have just been background other than that.
Okay.
Episode. Because remember, we were paying close attention to the background staff at the hospital because of Faith.
Right. Also instantly recognizable is Bob Mann, who, of course, we talked to on the channel. He was also in Sullivan's Crossing in the first season. We didn't see him in the second season at all. We were hoping to. He was, of course, in From very briefly. And the movie he is involved with that actually is nominated for a Screen Nova Scotia Award is Sharp Corner.
Yes.
Which Reed Price is in as well.
Right.
I recently watched a preview for that movie. It looks really freaking good.
Yeah, we gotta figure that out.
Now, I did look into it a little bit.
There's so many things that we want to watch and
Yeah.
we want to cover, and logistics.
Yeah. I did look into it, and apparently it is available for rent on Prime at this time. But
Okay.
that's the only place I actually managed to see
Well, the
it.
fact that it's visible somewhere in the country is a good sign.
Also in this series, that's relevant to Sullivan's Crossing, is Martha Irving.
Yes.
Who I mistook multiple times for Frances Fisher. The first time being when we talked about her in the Sullivan's Crossing towards the end of the season when she was T. Thomason's character, Jackson's doctor. She was basically, trying to help him out because he fell off a cliff or whatever.
Right.
And yeah, that was the first time I'm like, wait, is this Frances Fisher? And when you looked into it, you noticed that she was not that actor. But then we went back and watched The Sinner season 4.
Right.
We saw her dancing naked, and it looked like it was, in fact, Frances Fisher. But once again, it was not Frances Fisher. It was Martha Irving. And it's funny because Frances Fisher is actually in this series of The Sinner, season 4.
Right.
So that was all funny. And I believe that the reason I'm bringing her up is because, tomorrow, the Screen Nova Scotia awards are going to be announced, and she's up for an award. I think she's part of a series. Everybody's Meg.
I remember that on the list.
Right. And I looked into the series, and this goes to show how useless Internet Movie Database is when it comes to our television shows in Nova Scotia, because it lists only one episode when in fact there are actually 6 episodes. Like only one episode appears on the Internet movie database page for that series. So, I mean, I guess it just has problems with Canadian television in general.
Or they need to pick up the slack on whoever's
Right.
entering this information.
I know. I guess so.
Yeah, if anyone wants to hire someone to help you organize your IMDb, you can get a hold of me.
Absolutely. For a price, I'm assuming, right?
I said hire.
Okay. All right, and I think that's all I really had to say. I hope you found that information interesting, and if not, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and again, congratulations to everyone who's
Yes.
nominated for the awards. Good luck tomorrow.
Including Reed Price.
Including Reed Price. Hope you have an amazing time hosting. I'm sure it's going to go great.
Yep, and we'll probably talk about this again, on the flip side.
And we want to hear all about how it goes, because we're not going to be able to see it.
Indeed.
But anybody who's there, our friends, any of you get to witness this event, let us know how it goes. We want to hear all about it.
All right. So, Stacie, your thoughts on this week's episode? Okay,
The Ties That Bind. Not a bad episode. I feel like we didn't get a whole lot of, stuff happening. This feels like more of a bridge episode, right?
Yeah.
We're not really advancing stories. We're just doing a lot of, character development. We're nurturing a lot of different relationships. Cal and Maggie are, doing couple stuff. We've got Cal exploring his relationship with his parents. We've got Sully and Helen getting closer. We've got Lola and Jacob getting closer. So it's really just kind of all this in-between moments, right? Without a whole lot of movement as far as the actual story goes.
Right.
Which is fine. We need that too. But, it's just not the most exciting story of we've got things happening.
Right.
It's just kind of we're living in their life for a minute.
Interesting to note that neither Rafe nor Cooper are in this episode at all.
Right. We didn't have any Search and Rescue Firehouse drama this week. However, good thing you bring that up, because we're going to talk about our deleted scenes.
Oh, okay.
So I'll do that now. The CW version was 41 minutes and 48 seconds. The CTV version was 44 minutes and 6 seconds. So that's 2 minutes and 18 seconds we're missing this week.
All right, Emma, I want to know, is your cut still 45 minutes long? Emma Lindsay, of course.
Right.
Yeah. From Australia.
CTV was 44:06.
Right.
Unless in Australia they just round and don't show you the actual seconds.
Maybe.
I don't know. But I don't have any hard details on what was cut. Usually we'll get some context based on the press photos or those clips that CTV airs. I didn't see anything specific, but the clue I have is on IMDb, both Dakota Taylor's Rafe and Zayd Maloney's Finn are credited in this episode.
I did notice Finn being credited in the episode.
And Rafe's not a main cast member. He's a recurring cast member. So he shouldn't be listed in an episode he doesn't physically appear in.
Right.
So I'm wondering if those two characters are in the Canadian version of this episode,
Given
in a deleted scene.
The fact that we haven't seen Finn this season.
We haven't seen Finn yet, so why would his name suddenly pop up?
I mean, if he was, in part of this episode, he should have been part of this episode because, we have not seen him for the first two episodes.
Right, but CW cut something.
Right, yeah.
So I'm guessing maybe there was a scene where maybe Rafe was babysitting Finn while Rob and Sydney went restaurant hunting.
Maybe.
Or maybe two separate scenes. Or who the heck knows?
Skylar Anderson, I'm assuming you're here listening, and I know you're a Canadian viewer, so if you could, cast some light onto that issue, please let us know if there was actually a Finn episode or a Finn scene or an appearance from Rafe as well.
Right.
It's funny because Rob is not in this episode for way into it. He appears, pretty late into the episode.
Yeah, Rob and Sydney just have, a very small little...
Two scenes.
Two small scenes.
And it goes back to the same complaints we raised a couple of times, throughout the series. Can we, give them a little bit more time and advance their story a little bit more?
Right.
Or just save these scenes for, next week, maybe. It just feels like it's not enough.
Yeah.
But I would like to see some forward momentum there.
We did get to see Rob, get out of his pajamas and be outside this week.
That's good. I mean, that's better than I would do if I weren't working, but that's besides the point. All right, do we have anything else to say before diving in?
Let's go for it.
All right, so the episode begins with Maggie getting dressed, and she wants to look up flights to go and see Cal's dad. Cal is reluctant, but she agrees to go with him and convinces him to do so as well.
Yeah, because they are a team now.
Yes. They are the best. Well, other than Frank and Edna, they're easily the best couple in the series at this point. Who knows? Maybe Helen and Sully could overtake them, but they're just beginning things, so we don't know how they're going to go. The episode begins with Maggie getting dressed.
You just read all that?
Edna is counting money at the register. Sully is pacing. Frank went to the real estate agent to find out who owns the property. This would be the property that
they're building the luxury resort.
Yep. Maggie knows nothing about this because she slept over at Cal's, which surprises Edna. I'm not sure why it would. But,
right.
Yeah. Maggie comes in telling her about the situation with Cal and that she has to go away for a while. Edna tells her to take as much time as she needs. After she departs, Edna wonders if they should have told her, and Sully looks at the door, very, very worried. Okay, so what do you think? And by the way, this is where we have our credits. If you want to sing the credits, go for it. Sing the song, the theme song.
Don't tempt me.
No? Okay. What's your take? Should Sully have told her?
Well, he wanted to tell her. He was like, I'm glad you're here. He was about to tell her, and she was like, but wait, I gotta go to New York. Cal's dad has cancer. I'll let you know when I get there.
What do you think? Hold off, or?
In that moment, when so I think that, what's going on with her and Cal was a little more important in that moment.
Yeah.
Than oh, by the way, we're about to have some competition next door.
Right.
You didn't need to worry her with that when she had enough going on.
Okay, fair enough.
But if that didn't happen, yeah, tell her. There's no reason to keep it from her.
Right. Okay. So, after the credits, Sully is back on the phone trying to get some information. No dice. Frank arrives back. The realtor said it was a private sale, but the person involved is Glenn Perry, our nemesis from last season, and once again played by Dean Armstrong.
And why did they not suspect it was him to begin with?
I'm not sure. But they're kind of painting this as I'm getting the vibe that they think this is some kind of vendetta against Sully.
That he thinks.
But, why? Glenn Perry's a businessman.
Right.
He lost. He's going to take his lumps and he's going to move on and try to do business elsewhere.
Right.
Why is...
He does own the land across the lake. He is doing business here already.
Right. So Sully is pissed and wants to go talk to him, and Frank goes with him despite Edna's objections. And Frank basically shrugs at her I don't know, I'm just going to go do this. It was kind of cute. So, Cal packs and has a flashback to talking to his sister, Sedona. So, we did in fact see Sedona in this episode, just not the adult Sedona.
Yep, this is young Sedona, played by Charlie Story. We saw her last in episode 202. And it's the same young Cal Jones we've been seeing the last couple episodes. Theo Lepoy. Theo.
Okay, and you had similar trouble last week.
I don't know how to say it. Someone wants to help me, please. Let me know.
She asks if he will ever come back, and Cal says he doesn't know. He hugs her and then says, I gotta go, bye.
Yeah, so he wants to go to a school with real teachers. He's basically just checking out from his family. I'm not sure where he's going. He still looks very young. I'm not sure where he's going, that he's just gonna go to school somewhere.
I don't know.
But he's peacing out.
Right. So, Sully and Frank find... Sully and Frank find Glenn gulping. Once again, I just mentioned that already, that he's played by Dean Armstrong. Sully is yelling at him as Glenn is about to take a shot on the green. He completely misses it. Glenn claims that this isn't business. It is not personal. It's business. And Sully yells at him some more, but Glenn is unmoved and basically tells the pair to leave.
Yeah. Now...
That was very unproductive.
Here's my take about this whole thing.
Right.
I don't feel like a luxury resort and a campground
are
necessarily direct competitors.
Right.
You're going to have a very different set of clientele.
Right.
I don't think people looking to go stay at this lake are necessarily going to be like, oh, I have to pick between these two. They're going to have one in mind already. Either you're looking for a luxury resort or you're looking for a campground.
Right. I mean, yeah, exactly.
I don't think this is really going to hurt Sully.
No, I agree. I actually had that same thought. Whereas if you're looking to go camping, you're looking to go camping. If you're looking to go to a luxury resort, you're going to go and find a luxury resort somewhere. Like in the Andrews of the world who want to go glamping, they're not going to go to Sullivan's Crossing. They're going to go find some place where they can go glamping or whatever, however you pronounce that. So yeah. Helen visits the outpost trying to get the 411 on why Sully was upset yesterday. Edna gives her the skinny and Edna starts having more hot flashes. Helen insists that she needs to go to talk to her doctor. Is this like hinting that we're going to have some kind of illness problem with
Probably.
Edna?
You know, they always got to have some health
Right.
scare each season.
Right. The couple in cabin 12 have moved out, but Helen's not going to go there. She's going to stay right where she is, and she thinks that the work that needs to be done is part of the appeal,
Right.
i.e., I get to see Sully this way.
Exactly. Now, there
Right.
was an important line in this conversation that Edna had. I don't know if you caught it. She was talking about the auction and how Glenn was trying to steal the property from under them. She said the auction was a couple of months ago.
Okay.
So we have a timeline hint.
Right.
And we know the auction was at the beginning of the school year. So end of August, beginning of September.
Right.
If that was a couple of months ago, we should be in winter right now. It should be November, December, January.
Right.
I don't feel like that's accurate at all.
No, it doesn't seem to be snowing. I mean, I can't imagine that the weather in Nova Scotia is much different than our own.
It's colder.
Right.
It's worse. You know, we know they have very harsh winters there.
Yep.
In reality. So yeah, I'm feeling more uncomfortable with the timeline
So we just got a screwed up timeline.
by her saying that was a couple of months ago. Of course, that phrase is ambiguous.
Yes. I mean, it could, a couple months ago, it could mean like 6 months ago, but
It could.
I don't think, I don't know.
Now, I do know I got a hint from a future episode that we haven't seen yet because, again, CTV is posting clips. And I know in one of the upcoming episodes, there's going to be a conversation between Lola and Maggie where they're talking about Jacob. And the phrase summer fling comes up,
Okay.
which indicates they're in the summer,
Right.
which is the timeline parody that doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Right.
Because if we're in the summer, we're in the following summer, which means we skipped 8-9 months,
Right.
which is more than a couple months, by the way, Edna. And the fact that, you know, Maggie and Cal hadn't been intimate in that whole time makes zero sense.
Yeah. So we have quite a bit of
And the
problem
fact
there.
that Rob, you know, just waited that whole time before dealing with the restaurant
Right. Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
Well, maybe once again we're in different time periods. Like you know, I already suggested, like you know, I mean, this is a situation where Rob's story is happening at a different point
No,
in time.
it's not.
Okay. So
It's called We Live in a Fantasy Time Where We're Just going to Pretend the Whole Year Didn't Happen.
okay,
And it's always summer.
I would love to. Like I said, I would love to live in that always summer timeline. Maybe actually I would prefer spring because I kind of prefer it to be a little cooler than summer. But all right, so Cal sits on his couch. We see a chessboard set up, which is a nice bit of continuity.
That chessboard's always there.
Yeah, but I did. We just moved in here. Have we seen this
I mean,
yet?
he moved in here this season. It's been in every episode, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, this is my first time noticing it.
You don't have the best observant eyes sometimes.
I would say that's a pretty accurate statement, but of course that was given to him by the character whose name I can't come up with. Lola's grandfather.
Roy.
Roy, that's it. So Maggie comes in. Ready to go. Cal says, "Let's go," before he changes his mind.
Yes. Yeah, it was a very quick, weird scene. Maybe they cut something there. Because
Maybe.
it was so short that it felt like, why did we need to see this?
Frank and Sully arrive back to the outpost. They're exhausted. Their options as far as getting it stopped are exhausted. They aren't sure how they'll compete. And
yeah,
so,
they even checked City Hall, and
Yeah.
the permits are all
Yeah.
in order. Everything's above board.
Sully goes for a walk, and Frank is, of course, worried. He always is worried about Sully.
Right. That's his job.
Yep. Lola comes to the outpost. She gets brownies because Edna is baking to get her mind off Glen Perry.
Yeah, Lola very quickly guessed that the brownies have something to do with the luxury resort.
Which is a weird...
She was
thing.
like, you made an awful lot of brownies. Does this have something to do with the resort?
Right. It was a weird conclusion to jump to, that's for sure. And then Edna has this line of, I can't believe Glen Perry would do such a thing.
Like, do you know anything else about Glen Perry?
Right, it's not
other
like-
than he does this type of thing?
It's not like they're best friends or anything. This is a weird line from Edna for sure. So Lola goes in the back. Jacob enters, having scoped out the local university. I'm not sure why.
So he's in town to do research.
Okay.
and he's working with the local university. He's
Gotcha.
very impressed with their mycology department.
Ooh.
I don't know what that means, but later we're going to learn he does biology type stuff.
Yes.
So it's got to be
Right.
some branch of biology, mycology.
And of course, out comes Lola, who's awkward again.
Yeah, she's very distraught to see him. She's looking for an out.
She goes to play around with the thermoses awkwardly, and is like, you don't need to do that. That's already taken care of. And she basically is recruited to go do something else, and Jacob, of course, ends up tagging along.
Yeah, and it tells them to go in the back room and fold T-shirts.
She awkwardly apologizes for the other day. He forgives her, but she says there's one way she can make it up to him. He mentions the fact that he hasn't gone sightseeing yet. And of course, Lola, being this new Lola,
Yeah, exactly.
completely clueless, says, "Oh, well, here's a guide. You can go check it out yourself." And it's not like she's trying to blow him off.
Right,
It's like
she's
she
oblivious.
literally doesn't get it. And she's like, "Well, actually, I was kind of hoping you'd go with me." Oh, okay. So Cal and Maggie drive. He hasn't seen his parents since Lynn died. And who's Lynn again?
His wife?
His wife. Yeah. Wow. I forgot what her name was, other than Cal's wife. So he wasn't close to his dad, who was very unpredictable, and mentions that they don't live in a school bus anymore, that they actually moved to a farm, which was belonged to the parents. His parents?
I don't think they said which side, but Cal's grandparents' farm.
Right.
One of the parents, this is their parents' farm.
Gotcha.
And they moved in after the grandparents died. We're in Woodstock, New York. Maggie is confused that it's farmland. It's not what she was expecting.
Right. And he's also basically like, oh, be prepared for him to be wearing his tin foil hat when you arrive. And of course, he doesn't act like that at all when they actually finally meet.
Right.
But Helen finds a glum Sully on the beach, and we've seen this beach before.
Beach.
Is it a beach?
I wouldn't call it a beach. It's the dock at Sully's house.
Okay.
This is where Maggie and Cal met.
Yes, okay. Okay. It looked like there was...
I don't ever call a lake a beach. To me, a beach means ocean. I do know people call lakes beaches, but I can't get behind that.
Okay. So Sully sees Glenn as a problem, but doesn't know how or what to do about it. Helen suggests going to the Halifax boardwalk, and Sully agrees. Cal and Maggie arrive. We see his dad and mom. They are all pleasant and hugs. Cal seems quiet and reluctant, however, and we're not totally sure why at this point.
Well, we know he's very uncomfortable with this whole homecoming. Cal's dad we met last week, played by John Ralston. This is our first time meeting Marissa Jones, Cal's mother. She's played by Tori Higginson. She was in 48 episodes of Transplant, 8 episodes of Dark Matter, and 63 episodes of Stargate Atlantis.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did recognize that name, John Ralston. That was his name.
We talked about him last week.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, other than that, I did recognize him from somewhere.
I mean, we talked about it last week. I don't have those notes in front of me anymore.
Gotcha. All right. So, Jacob and Lola walk. Are they in the same area that...
Okay, no. And I thought that when everybody's going sightseeing, that they're going to, run into each other. But we learned later that Lola and Jacob are actually in Lunenburg.
Okay.
And I don't know if that sounds familiar to you, but it should.
It does sound familiar.
Lunenburg is where The Sinner Season 4 was filmed.
Right, okay.
So that's where Lola and Jacob are.
Okay.
Which I learned that between my 2 viewings of this episode.
Gotcha.
When I took these, learned it actually, watching the first time. But then by the second time, I was able to, look at these scenes and be like, oh, that's Lunenburg. I mean, we don't know if they actually filmed it in Lunenburg, but they probably did.
Yeah.
Now that they're throwing out all these names of real places, which, by the way, they didn't do that at all in the first 2 seasons.
It's interesting.
In the first 2 seasons, we only talked about Sullivan's Crossing and Timberlake. We never put these in real places. And now all of a sudden we're talking constantly about Nova Scotia, Halifax, Lunenburg. They're very specific about it now.
I'm kind of curious as to why that's the case, but I don't object to it.
Well, we can't hang out in Timberlake anymore because the diner burned down.
Oh, okay.
So they can't show that street anymore because
Gotcha.
the Holly Deli's still there.
Right. You have to, burn the place down and then film. Hey, I'm sure the owners of that establishment would not appreciate that.
I don't think they would.
No.
So yeah, this is Lunenburg. So yeah, we're right around where Percy died.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
So he reveals himself to be a big science guy. He's talking about something.
Lichen.
And he's passionate about it. He goes on and on.
Yeah, she doesn't understand anything he's saying, but she's like, I'm impressed with your passion.
Right. Lola is working on her degree to become a social worker. She wants to work with troubled teens. And that, of course, is going back to the fact that she got run over by a car. Though, of course, you're not going to mention that.
Finally, they don't mention it.
Right.
It's the first time we don't mention it.
I thought for sure she was going to start being like, yeah, when I was a kid, I got run over by a car.
And I don't know who it was.
Right.
And it's traumatized me my whole life.
Yeah.
And I thought it was Sully, but it wasn't.
So they go on a Blue Nose, which I'm guessing is some kind of
it's a boat.
A boat.
They're going on a boat tour,
Okay.
and that's that for what we're going to see on their date.
So Cal and Maggie eat a dessert. This looks
This
like
is peach cake they're
peach
having.
cake. Okay. The tension is obvious between father and son. His dad enjoys a slower pace of life, which is why he didn't want Cal going to law school in the first place. Sedona is brought up, but she won't be making an appearance here. Cal asks about what the doctors are saying about his dad's health, but his dad won't say anything. And his dad and Maggie end up going for a walk, a little tour of the farm.
Yeah, and the whole thing about Cal's dad reminding him that he didn't want him to become a lawyer, and he's glad he finally came to his senses. I'm taking that as foreshadowing that Cal's going to want to start up his practice again.
in reaction to his dad. I could see that.
Like,
actually.
remembering that dad, like, this is what dad wants. He's going to be
Right.
like, I should go be a lawyer in Nova Scotia. And maybe that'll make Maggie be like, hey, I should be a doctor in Nova Scotia.
Mm-hmm.
Because between us, we spent like $200,000 to get these degrees we're not using.
Right.
Maybe we should do something with them.
Maybe. So his dad... Oh, yeah, okay. Sully and Helen walk on the boardwalk. They end up seeing a game of washer toss, and he ends up introducing her to the game, supposedly, and they end up making a bet on the game, who could make the most washer tosses, I guess.
Right.
So as Maggie and Cal's dad walk, it seems from the scene that we're trying to imply that his dad is very much like Sully, which is actually interesting, in the sense that perhaps that is why Cal was so drawn to Sully in the first place.
Right.
Because he did remind him of his dad, while at the same time not having, the schizophrenia involved as well.
Right. This is all about, enjoying nature
Right.
and wanting to disconnect from technology and experience life, with a clear head and all that. They talk about Cal's childhood, and Maggie handles this really well. Because, not Roy, what's his name? Jed. Jed wants to know, like, what did Cal say about his childhood? And she's graceful. She's not like, well, she said you were a horrible father.
It's interesting. That's actually interesting because it's a note of growth for Maggie. Because I think seasoned Maggie would come out and been like, yeah, he said you were terrible.
She basically said, he said his childhood was unconventional and that they lived in a converted school bus. She's sticking to kind of facts, right? Instead of his feelings. But Dad, those were them. They lived on a bus.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Cal finds out his dad is taking the medication, which is surprising to him because he never would before. Cal wonders how his mother got him to do that. And she basically says that she threatened to leave him, but doesn't want to talk any more about this, and basically blows Cal off from talking about it any further. Mm-hmm. And Cal is clearly not happy. Helen ends up winning the washer toss bet, and basically Sully thinks that she has played this game before and is a ringer. And I don't think they actually exchange any money.
What? She says he owes him. She says he owes her $25, and then they agree to use the money to go get ice cream.
Okay, that works. And basically Sully is very amused and thanks Helen for getting his mind off things before going and getting that ice cream they were just talking about. Meanwhile, Cal and his mother, Cal asked about what his siblings really said when they called.
Right, because earlier she blew it off and she was like, oh yeah, they can't make it.
Right.
Sierra's traveling and Dakota's in the army, so they couldn't make it.
One couldn't be reached at all.
That was Sierra, the sister.
The other wasn't going to come. And Cal wants to know about his dad's health. And she's basically like, well, you know how your dad is. He's a very private person. And Cal's like, I don't care. He doesn't want to tell me. You tell me what's going on. But of course, this conversation...
Right. I mean, literally, they called him and told him to come here because Dad's sick.
Right.
And now we don't want to talk about Dad being sick.
Right. It's kind of weird because they made it seem in the prior episode that this was an urgent thing.
Right.
You don't call, say, hey, look, you need to get here now.
Right.
Unless it's important. And now they're acting like it's not important.
Right.
Which, of course, we know that it is. But it's just weird.
It is weird.
Yeah,
and I think that's part of it. I think that's part of Cal's frustration is why am I here?
Right.
I don't want to socialize.
Right.
You called me here because of this, so
yeah, you said this shit
let's talk about it.
Yeah, you said this was an emergency, that this was an urgent matter, so let's get to it. But, okay, so Maggie returns from the tour. She ends up comparing him to Sully, but Cal disagrees. He says that he's nothing like
Cal's
Sully.
basically offended
Right.
that she thinks their dads are alike.
Right, yeah. And he doesn't think he can do this, and he goes into the house. Sully returns to the outpost and is told about Jacob. Sully tells her about Helen, and Edna is very amused, clearly thinking that something is happening between the pair, but Sully is acting like Sully and no, nothing's going on here.
Yeah, also during the scene, Edna's unpacking a box of inventory. This place gets an awful lot of inventory compared to how few customers they have. Every scene in the outpost, they're unpacking new inventory. How much stuff are they selling? How many people are coming here and just buying souvenirs? Because they don't have that many campers.
Do you want to do an audit on them to see where all this stuff is going?
I'd love them to actually sell it.
Okay.
There is 0 licensed Sullivan's Crossing merch. I want some.
Okay.
I want one of those stoneware mugs.
Well,
I want a tea. We can make them, but I want the real ones.
Okay.
I want the ones that look just like the ones at the outpost.
All right. Ask Edna. I'm sure she'll give you a few. So Cal wants to go home. He's packing.
Yeah, and when did he unpack, by the way?
I don't know. But Cal basically apologizes for snapping at her. When did that happen exactly? I don't remember Cal snapping at Maggie.
Maybe they cut it.
I mean, maybe it's the kind of the case, kind of like me. I'm kind of a mild guy, and Cal was kind of the same way. So me snapping at somebody might not even register to someone else because I'm not very vocal, or I'm not like a guy that's like, my emotional range is smaller than most people's.
Right.
I would say, and I think Cal is basically the same, is what I'm trying to say, as far as expressing his feelings go. So he might feel like he's snapping at someone, but I don't see it at all because he's such a mild guy, is what I'm trying to say. Make sense?
Sure.
Okay. Maggie convinces him to stay.
Really easily, by the way.
Right.
She's like, I understand, but you should give it some time. And
he's like, okay.
He's like, you're right. I'm sorry. I should stay. It doesn't take much for him to agree with her.
I mean, it's, I guess, a new relationship, or maybe not. But, he's just basically looking to appease her in any kind of way at all.
And she says she knows how hard going home can be.
Yes.
Which is true. This is a nice callback. If we remember her first night at the crossing, she wanted to pack and run away too. She had the same reaction the first day she went home to see Sully.
Mm-hmm. His mom comes in and basically says that she wants to have a nice dinner and enlists Maggie's help. Rob and Sydney meet with the realtor. This is pretty deep into the episode, by the way. For a place that has a leak. Oh, yeah, the place has a leak. Rob looks peeved. He asks about the rent, and it's above his price range. I'm not sure why he even came here. He knew that already.
Right, because they're running out of options.
Rob, yeah.
They're just kind of they've looked at everything at this point.
Yeah. Rob thanks her for her time, and then just takes off.
Yeah,
the
he's
realtor,
really upset.
Yeah.
He just kind of leaves.
Right. The realtor is played by Martina Colades. She was a Colony House resident in 2 episodes from last season.
Yeah, she was in episodes 301 and 303.
And she has 9 credits thus far in her career. Did you have anything else?
She was also in 1 episode of King and Pawn, in which she was also a realtor.
Oh, okay.
And she's in 1 I wonder if she's a realtor. She's in 1 episode of Moonshot. I wonder if she's a realtor in real life.
Maybe. Otherwise, it's kind of a weird typecasting choice. But
I mean, it could just be coincidence. But she's another one who appears on my Facebook, people you may know, all the time. I see her picture and her name all the time. So she's friends with, all these people.
Gotcha.
That we're friends with.
Right.
So weird.
Jacob and Lola arrive back. Jacob says he had fun and asks for her digits, which she gives him awkwardly.
Here's my note. Is that still a thing? Do young people exchange phone numbers anymore?
No,
I don't feel like that's a thing.
I mean, I think it still happens. I mean, in my case, I have no choice now, but I think...
You're not a young person.
Right. No. I think right now, if you're going to exchange something, it's going to be like a Facebook or a Snapchat.
They're just going to find each other on social media and start talking.
Right, yes. Yeah, that's more how it happens.
Like, I don't feel like the first date situation is, can I have your phone number anymore?
Right, no.
I think phone numbers are exchanged more out of, like, necessity than socializing.
Right, yeah. Yeah, mostly it's like, to your employer or for contacts purposes, like if you're doing a podcast, for instance. But yeah, no, I don't think this is actually a normal thing anymore. I think it's more social media than actual phone numbers. But I think people still do give out the digits.
Okay.
Okay, so... Where am I?
Lola and Edna talk about this.
Yes. So they... Yeah, she talks to Edna about Jacob, gets some ribbing about that, and then Lola learns about Helen. I thought she already knew about this.
This is her learning they went to Halifax today.
Okay,
she knew about the bird watching last week.
Right.
This is her learning that they went to Halifax today.
The birding that...
So this is basically their second date.
Oh, okay. So we have a beautiful shot of the farm. Like, this shot is gorgeous that we had before. It's as an establishing shot. I don't know if I'm giving that credit to Chris Grismore or whoever did the cinematography on this, but it's an absolutely gorgeous, breathtaking shot. Cal offers to do the dishes, but he is sent out to talk to his dad instead. That doesn't seem to be going well right off the bat. Cal is not very talkative until his dad starts waxing nostalgically about the good old days, which pisses Cal off. He gives him hell and says that all his kids basically are not going to show up here because they want to get as far as possible away from him. His mom comes out angry that he would speak to his dad like that. Cal apologizes, though it's not a very sincere apology.
Yeah, he gives his half-hearted apology to his mom, not to his dad.
Right, and walks off, and Maggie, of course, goes with him. Cal goes to the barn to see a horse.
He's brushing a horse. And, I found this weird. We're told that they just live in the house, right? They rent off the land to farmers. Yet we're feeding chickens. We're brushing a horse. These are not your animals. Why are we tending to these animals? They don't belong to any of you.
Right. So, yeah, Maggie gives him some horsebacks. And Cal is basically amused by this. But Cal is in disbelief about his dad taking his antipsychotics. He wishes he could have done that when he actually needed him to. And, of course, there's different... They're talking about how... basically Maggie was abandoned as well.
Right. She's like, I get it. I was always mad at Sully for not being there for me.
Cal says that he didn't have a choice. Maggie says, well, your dad didn't have a choice to have schizophrenia either. But then Cal comes up with a reasonable point. Okay, that's true, but taking his medication was a choice, and he didn't elect to do it.
Right.
So Rob and Sydney arrive back at the house. Rob thinks that he's out of options. He needs to get a job. He thinks he needs to start looking into his options. Are we paving the way for Rob leaving this series?
No, I know where it's going. It was in...
Okay.
We got spoilers for this.
Yeah, I didn't read all the way through that. I didn't want to be completely spoiled.
Yeah, I'm spoiled. I think it's happening next week.
Okay, good.
It's going somewhere.
Good. I'm glad, because it just seems like 3 weeks of... this.
If they took Rob out of the series, I'd be very upset.
Like, would we still even cover this series if Rob were taken out?
I don't know.
It would definitely be a conversation, I think.
Yeah.
He's the whole reason that we're here in the first place.
Right.
But Lola comes in to talk to Sully about Helen. He seems amused, asking what she's implying. Because he's like, oh, I heard you were going to this and doing that. And Lola says, it's good to have someone to talk to. Sully says she's just a guest, basically completely dismissing his relationship with Helen.
Right.
So, of course, again, this is Sully being Sully. She looks at her book and says, ooh, she's pretty. And Sully's like, oh, I hadn't noticed.
Uh-huh.
And then he asks for her help to set the table, and then he has this little smile on his face. So, this is just evidence of Sully being Sully. Cal talks to his mother. She gives him crap about the things he said. Cal says, well, it was the truth. Why can't you ever see things from my perspective? And she says she doesn't understand where this is all coming from. Okay, that's bullshit. She knows full well where this is coming from. She knows exactly why her kids are not talking to her dad.
She threatened to leave him if he didn't take the meds.
So here's the thing. Either you're clueless, and you're not, and you just really don't know where this is coming from, which is not the case. Or you don't want him saying these things to his father because you're worried it's going to upset him, and that's going to dramatically impact his health, and he's going to die sooner.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing is, she wants everyone to be happy because Dad is dying. She wants them to get along. So instead of fixing the problem, she's trying to just put them under the rug.
So she's completely wrong-headed here, in the sense that the perfect way for there to actually be peace and to move forward, and for, Cal to reconcile with his father, is to let Cal actually express his feelings, hash it out, and then maybe find a way forward.
Maybe convince your husband he has some apologizing to do.
Right, yeah. Just going, there's nothing to see here is the totally wrong approach.
Right.
I understand it. I do get it.
But of course, we have to believe she's always been this way because they all left.
Right.
She wasn't supporting her kids their whole life.
Right. Yeah. That which is really unfortunate. So Maggie ends up calling for them urgently. They end up running. Cal and his mom enter the room. He fainted. Maggie's basically going into doctor mode. His mom eventually he regains consciousness. And his mom is basically like, you need to tell Cal. He doesn't want to. And eventually, though, he reveals that the cancer has spread to his pancreas and is, in fact, terminal. Maggie turns to Cal and says, I'm so sorry. Cal looks upset and confused and angry all at the same time. Chad Michael Murray is a really great actor. That's where the episode ends.
Yeah. I was confused by this because I thought those were the stakes we were talking about the whole time.
Yes.
Given last week's You Gotta Come Home, Your Dad has cancer.
Once again, based on that ending, that should not be too surprising that this is a terminal situation.
Right, that's what I thought we're doing. I thought we're like, come reconcile with your dad before he dies.
Right.
Was the whole point of this.
Right. Yeah, I don't really get it either, but there's a little bit off in the writing in this episode sometimes, particularly on this particular topic. Like, it seems like they should have known from the jump that this was going to be a situation in which his father does not have a lot of time, but they were not acting like that throughout the episode. But yeah, that's the episode.
All right.
Yeah. Do we have anything else to say before concluding?
That's all I have for cast notes. I think we hit it all.
Okay. All right, we'd like to hear from you. What'd you think of this episode? What'd you think of this podcast? If you do make a comment, as you did note at the beginning, we will shout you out. Please confine your comments to the episode that we were talking about,
right.
And prior episodes, because we don't want spoilers going forward.
Right, because again, we're in the U.S. and we're a couple episodes behind the rest of the world.
All right, so Stacie can be reached at?
I can be reached on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at TVN Coupon Talk.
If you like this video and want to support the channel, the number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join the Core Productions Facebook page. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a coffee. You can join the Core Productions membership for 99 cents a month. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribe to the channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Core Productions, signing off.